YouTube, live on TikTok. Another Thursday night football game. Week 2. Week 1 was absolutely wild. So much went down in Week 1. And you do have to react to Week 1. You don't want to overreact to Week 1. But there's a lot of information to react to from Week 1. Even just for this game tonight is going to be a very fun game tonight. An extremely high over-under in the game tonight. I'm starting basically all the top starters in this game. I don't really care about the situation for all of these guys. I'm getting them into my starting lineup 100% tonight. This could be a extremely high scoring game. I said in Slack this morning, I wouldn't be shocked if there was a full 1,000 yards of offense in this one game. Last time they played each other, I was actually at that game. They had about 900 total combined yards. Absolutely insane. And there was also a few goal line stops in that game, and it was already high scoring. You want pieces of this game this week. So definitely you're starting Juju, you're starting Herbert, you're starting Mahomes, you're starting Kelsey, you're starting Eckler. You're definitely starting Mike Williams with Keenan Allen out. Pretty high on Mike Williams. Tonight, I would be starting Clyde too. I didn't love the usage for Clyde in Week 1. It wasn't like the best. I think he had, around a 30% snap share, which was a little concerning. Let me actually pull the numbers up. He did score 2 touchdowns, though. He had a great Week 1. There's no going around that. He scored 22.4 fantasy points. We have seen Clyde have big Week 1s in the past, though, and he only had 10 touches in this game. So that is a tiny bit concerning. Isaiah Pacheco was in the fourth quarter. I actually like Isaiah Pacheco over 11.5 rushing yards tonight. Same thing with Sky Moore, who didn't play very much last week, but both guys could easily go over 11.5, which is their lines tonight. But you still have to play Clyde because he scored 2 touchdowns last week. He did have a pretty prominent red zone role, 2 red zone touches, and this could be a really high-scoring game. So if you need a running back, I would grade Clyde as a strong RB2 this week. And same thing with Juju, especially in PPR leagues. You're getting a piece of this Chiefs offense, and they look just fine, guys, without Tyreek Hill. Everett or Schultz, I definitely would go Schultz in that situation, seeing that one on the TikTok live. And you can start Gerald Everett, don't get me wrong. He's one of my fringe starts tonight. Like I knew we would get some Gerald Everett questions tonight because the tight end position is so bleak, guys. Every week, like I had Taysom Hill in a few leagues. I'm just trotting Taysom Hill out there. I'm praying for a rushing touchdown from Taysom Hill because Cole Kmet, 0 points. Irv Smith, 0 points. There's going to be a lot of tight ends this season with literal 0-point weeks. That's how low the floor is for a lot of these tight ends. I think the floor for Gerald Everett is extremely low, but I'm happy to get a piece of this game. So if I'm punting the tight end position, like if I don't have Schultz, Pitts, Andrews, Kelsey, obviously you're starting Kelsey over Everett, but like those top guys are really the only ones that are locked into lineups. So I wouldn't say Everett's like a must start by any means. He's probably on most waiver wires, I would guess. I do like Hardman as a dart throw. If you're in like a 14-person league or more, I think Hardman could easily go over 10 points. Now he scored a touchdown last week, and he was worse in the box score than Marcus Valdes-Scantling. But when you actually dug into the numbers a little bit, Hardman had more air yards and more targets than his counterpart Marcus Valdes-Scantling. So I actually like Hardman more than Scantling in this game. A lot of people I think are view Scantling as like a deep flex play. I don't like Scantling quite as much, but he's still a fringe start. Again, I'm okay taking stabs at this game in deeper leagues, but these are the only guys I think are absolute must starts. All right, let's get to some of the questions in the chat. I do think that the Chiefs win this game, but I think the Chargers cover. I would take the Chargers against the spread. They're 4-point underdogs in this game in Kansas City. It's tough to see Kansas City losing this game, but again, against the spread, I think I would lean towards the Chargers. Don't feel super confident either way in this one. It is on Amazon Prime Video. I don't know what that experience is going to be like. I was panicking after the Sunday morning live trying to get Red Zone because I had to resubscribe to Red Zone. It's a different process every year. Probably the most stressful hour of the year is just making sure you're subscribed to all the things you need to be subscribed by so you don't miss the games after waiting so long for them. Start Clyde over Hollywood Brown. That one's really close. I could see 2 sides to Hollywood Brown. I'm starting him in a couple leagues again this week. He did score a touchdown last week. He really bailed himself out late in that game, though. And he went a long stretch under 5 fantasy points in that game. He does have really high upside, though, with DeAndre Hopkins out. I'm okay playing Marquise Brown in a PPR league over Clyde. Clyde does have risk. Again, Clyde, I'm putting Clyde as a must start, but there definitely are some scenarios where you don't need to start Clyde, depending on how deep your league is. I think a 12-person league, though, Clyde should probably be starting. But again, he only played 35% of the snaps last week. Pacheco did get some run in the fourth quarter over him. Jerick McKinnon stole some of the pass catching work. He was in there in the red zone a little bit too. But yeah, Clyde scored 2 touchdowns, and he could easily score a touchdown today in a game that's going to be ridiculously high scoring, I think. We did get news that J.C. Jackson is playing tonight. Really excited to see J.C. Jackson out there. I hope he plays. It doesn't sound like it's likely that he plays at full strength in the entire game, but I do hope he gets in there because that'll just be even worse on the Pats fans watching J.C. Jackson, who we desperately need. The Patriots desperately need J.C. Jackson. And we saw it even in week one. We're probably going to see it in week two against the Steelers receivers. And he really was one of the top corners in the league last year. I know he gets a lot of hate for being overrated, overpaid. Maybe he's a little overpaid. He's still a good corner, though. And I do think he can elevate this entire defense, which is already really talented. You can make an argument that the Chargers have the most talented roster in the NFL. It's definitely an argument. Keenan Allen, obviously, out tonight, which is what makes Mike Williams an absolute must start. You have to start Mike Williams. There's really no way around it. There's no Keenan Allen tonight, so you have to start him. I think his over/unders in the 60s. Like he's projected to get around 60 yards tonight. He could easily score a touchdown as well. I'm definitely playing Mike Williams in all situations. Really, of everyone on the list, if you're watching live on TikTok, you can see my must starts, fringe starts, and my one don't start, who I really want to start in one league, but I'm not going to. I do have him in one dynasty league. I like Sky Moore a lot, but he barely played in week one. So I don't have too much confidence in him seeing some random expanded role. But if he ever did, I think he's really, really talented with the ball in his hands. But yeah, the one guy I'm like a little bit the guy that I'm most nervous about in the must starts is definitely Clyde. It's definitely Clyde because I did draft him a lot in a lot of best ball leagues. I think he was my second or maybe even first most drafted running back because I'm just a sick human. I can't stop drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I drafted him 2 years ago, absolute bust. Drafted him last year, complete bust. And this year he was an 8th round price tag. I couldn't turn that away for basically all the same reasons that the last 2 years were still true. He was the clear top running back on one of the top offenses in the league, and he can catch passes. We saw it in week one. He scores 2 touchdowns, but he also played only a third of the snaps. That was definitely less than I was projecting heading into the season. Pacheco definitely going to steal some work on the ground. He did in the fourth quarter. Obviously, the game was pretty much over at that point, so it's hard to know how much to read into that. But Jerick McKinnon did have a pretty big role as well, and I think Sky Moore is going to mix in this backfield also, which is only going to make it worse. But I'm starting Clyde in most situations. Again, I want pieces of this offense, but he's definitely the guy I'm most scared about in this list. Everyone else, I won't really hear any argument against starting those guys. I don't think all the rest of the players, really everyone on this list has top 10 in their position upside tonight. Clyde or Monty? Yeah, I would lean Clyde, I think, over Monty. Start Clyde over Hollywood Brown. Yeah, I know. I'm not doing that. AJ Dillon or Robinson or Allen, guys. I should have taken a screenshot of it for the TikTok live. We're live on YouTube and TikTok, by the way. And on the YouTube live, I can actually pull up your comment right on the screen. So I tend to respond to more YouTube comments than TikTok comments. I will respond to some TikTok comments, but I do appreciate everyone coming to the YouTube live, smashing the like button, hit the subscribe button. I did drop a YouTube video today about my favorite buys and sells in fantasy football right now for trades. It's like 5 minutes long. It's really, I was going for quick, actionable advice in trades. I really think you can win a championship through trading in fantasy football. So definitely check that out. If you are watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. It really does help a ton. Hey, Sam, should I trade T. Higgins for Cortland Sutton? This one's really tough. Higgins is hurt. And so if you went 0-1 and you think you might go 0-2 without T. Higgins, I'm okay shipping him off for Sutton. I think Sutton's probably worse than him when both are fully healthy, though. I would prefer T. Higgins. So it's definitely, you are sacrificing some talent, I think, on your roster by doing that. Sam Kittle is out again. Higbee or Everett. Apps has Everett. This one's also really close. I like Higbee a little bit in DFS on FanDuel this week, but I don't have any confidence in either of them in terms of their floor. I think both guys could score 0 points, just like most tight ends in fantasy football outside the top guys. So you're just like getting on your knees and praying at the tight end position this season if you don't have one of the top guys. Even Kyle Pitts really lets down. I am buying Kyle Pitts, by the way. I do talk about that a little bit in the video that I posted this morning. But yeah, I'm probably playing Everett over Higbee. Again, Keenan Allen's out. I think that gives Everett the slight edge, but Higbee definitely could score a touchdown as well. It's like, which guy's going to fall in the end zone? Hey, Sam, pick 2. Juju, Judy, A-Rob, full PPR, 5.100 yard bonus. 100-yard bonus definitely should be factored into this. I like all 3 of these guys this week. I do think A-Rob has a bounce back week. There's definitely some risk there. He had 1 catch in week 1, so that's a little bit concerning. I do think Judy has probably the best chance of these 3 to go over 100 yards because we saw it why in the first game. I mean, he breaks a tackle, he goes for 67 yards. The absolute beast after the catch. I was all off season, guys, and I'm not going to take this victory lap yet because I'm not someone to have very strong opinions after week 1. But all off season, I was drafting Judy over Sutton. Both guys looked good in their first game. But I was pretty excited to see Jeudy excel after the catch like we knew he could. And he also he was number one. Jeudy was number one in the league last year in target separation, and he was almost dead last in target accuracy. We should have realized that, yeah, Russell Wilson's probably going to be good for a guy that leads the league in target separation. Terry McLaurin or Juju, that one's really close too. I think I would lead Juju though. Yeah, and this one I think I would go Jeudy, Juju, then A-Rob probably. But I do like all three of those options this week. And Jeudy and Juju are super close for me. I think Juju maybe has a slightly safer floor, just a part of the Chiefs compared to the Broncos. They could be more run heavy in a big lead. Like the thing with the Chiefs, guys, and why this game, and same thing with the Chargers, and why this game is going to be so exciting is both teams are willing to continue to throw the ball even when they have big leads in a game, which is exactly how elite offenses in today's NFL should be built. Passing is key to winning in the NFL today. It's pretty clear. Both these teams have figured it out. They pass a ton, and they're going to be passing if they're behind. They're going to be passing if they're ahead. So in almost all scenarios, we're going to see Herbert and Mahomes throw the ball a lot tonight, which maybe does give Juju the slight edge here. Start Clyde or Hollywood Brown. Yeah, I think I said Hollywood Brown to this one before. I think I would go Hollywood Brown. Bateman or Taysom Hill. Simon, I added Taysom Hill in a disgusting amount of fantasy leagues yesterday morning. I didn't feel great about it. I was dropping some guys I drafted that I did like in the last rounds, but again, it's a desolate wasteland in the tight end position. I would never play him over Rashad Bateman, though. Definitely would never play him over Rashad Bateman. This isn't even a really a good question. Definitely Bateman over Hill, but I did add Hill in way too many leagues. Would you accept Kelsey for Diggs? I think it's a fair trade. I mean, they went right around each other in drafts, like basically within 3 picks, I think, in ADP, and both had really good week ones. I mean, Kelsey, guys, the biggest positional advantage in fantasy football in week one, it wasn't close. It was Travis Kelsey. OJ Howard was the number 2 tight end in fantasy football. He was on every single one of your waiver wires in week one. And then I think next, like Mark Andrews did okay. He had like 12, 13, 10 points less than Kelsey did. Pitts had a horrible week. Multiple tight ends, Cole Kmet, Irv Smith, 0-point weeks. Ertz, he did okay at the end there, but I don't think he won any leagues, any matchups this week. Kirk or Lance, I think you kind of have to go Kirk after last week and how good he looked with Justin Jefferson. I would probably go with Kirk, but I'm not backing away from. See if our Chiefs WalterPicks creator is live. I think he might join the live with us soon. But yeah, I'm not shying away from Trey Lance. I do want to start Trey Lance. I actually really like Trey Lance this week. I'm scared about starting Trey Lance though over Kirk Cousins. What's going on, man? How we doing?
I'm so excited. What's going on?
Let me turn the volume up so YouTube can hear it. Oh, so I gotta hear your opinion for tonight's game.
Yeah, I have my thoughts written out right over here. I think the keys for the Chiefs to win this game are going to be to stop Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa from getting pressure without blitzing. I think the Chiefs are in real trouble if they rush forward and Mahomes is pressured a lot. Mahomes is great against the blitz, so if they can blitz, I'm okay with it. But pressure without the blitz, I'm definitely a little nervous. I think the Chiefs need to run the ball more than we'd like to. Whether at CEH, Pacheco, McKinnon, Jones, I don't care. Just run the ball. Get Patrick doing.
Are you starting Clyde? Are you starting Clyde tonight though? Are you starting Clyde in fantasy?
Start Clyde,
Yeah. Do you agree with this list I have here? These are my must start players here. I have Justin Herbert, Mahomes, Kelsey, Eckler, Mike Williams, Clyde, and Juju. I think all of those guys
100%
need to be started. I think there's some interesting appeal with Mecole Hardman. I am probably a little bit too deep on Mecole Hardman tonight, but he could be his prop line and easily one catch. He is my free prop tonight, over 35.5 receiving yards. But I don't have like a ton of faith in any of these other guys. I could see big games definitely out of one of them with no Keenan Allen, though. I think that will be really interesting to see how the Chargers offense looks without him. We haven't really seen the Chargers offense without Keenan Allen very much. He's been one of the most durable players in the league over the last really 6 years. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I'm definitely in on Mike Williams for that reason. I know he had a horrible week one. I think he was under 4 fantasy points. So who do you think is which side do you have winning and which side do you have against the spread tonight?
I like the Chargers plus the 4.5.
Yeah.
You can get it. I'll take the Chiefs to win. Just because I don't want to say the team I'm going against is going to win the game. But the Chargers have won the last 2 games in Arrowhead, and Herbert is 7 TDs, no picks. It should be
He's crazy, man. Yeah.
Point affair. Maybe like the first to 35 will win.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be extremely high scoring. We were going back and forth on Slack this morning. I said there might be 1,000 yards in this game tonight. And I was at the last game when they played at SoFi Stadium, and I think there was close to, I sent it in Slack, I forget what the number was, but it was close to 900 yards in that game. And there was also points left on the board, a ton of them in that game. There was, I think, three fourth down turnovers, and all those, I think, were in the red zone. And obviously, the game ended in OT. Kelsey had a really big night in that game. But, yeah, both teams, I was saying earlier, there's definitely a chance, too, that both teams continue to pass when they have a lead. And if that happens, this could be an extremely high-scoring game.
Yes.
What's the over-under tonight? I'm sure it's like laughably high.
It's like 53.5, 54.
Yeah, I wouldn't, like, I almost never do. I never touch over-unders. I actually don't think I've ever done an over-under. I think they're the hardest bets to beat. But personally, I wouldn't be taking the under in this game. I have to say, I would not be thinking about that at a minimum. I will say. What do you think about Sky Moore, man? I have Sky Moore in a dynasty league, probably the league I'm most invested in. I do have Sky Moore. I'm not starting him this week, but he was exciting when he got the ball in week 1, but I think he touched the ball once or maybe twice. He barely played. I think he ran 9 routes or something like that.
One catch for 30 yards. Nothing like exciting. The Chiefs just have so many like more veteran guys ahead of him.
Yeah.
I think he's great for dynasty or just to stash him in leagues if he does emerge as a wide receiver 2 maybe on the team.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be more involved in the offense once maybe MVS maybe like gone after this year, perhaps like in the next coming years.
Right.
Maybe Juju and Sky outside of Kelsey. Kelsey's also getting up there in age. We maybe only has 2 or 3 more elite seasons, and then we're going to probably have to rely on more receivers. And Sky can easily be the number 1 guy.
Right. I totally agree. And that's why I invested in him in Dynasty. And he is rostered in a few of my high stakes 12 and 14 team leagues. He's not rostered in all of them. He is on definitely some waiver wires because he's pretty irrelevant in fantasy this week, but he is really intriguing prospect. He's only 22 years old. He's one of the youngest receivers in this draft class. He was an early or mid-second round pick, and he's extremely fast, 90th percentile speed, 5'10". He really is like built closer to a running back than a receiver in a lot of ways. So I'm excited to see his potential in the backfield too. I think there's a route to him being like a Cordero Patterson type asset in fantasy later in his career. I don't know about this season, but I am always excited to see him on the field because I do have him in that one league. So I'm interested to hear how the start to the 32 Creator League has been for you. Did you win week 1? How are you feeling going into week 2? I don't have your team in front of me, but I can pull it up.
Yeah, I did sneak out a dub. It was kind of an underwhelming week, though, because my stack is Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk. And with the weather in Chicago, that was just like a complete tire fire.
Right.
Trey Lance got a couple points with the rushing. Ayuk had like 1 big catch. I squeaked out a 2-point win because I had Rasheed White catch like 2 passes Sunday night. And I played tight WalterPicks, and he had the Seahawks running back DJ Dallas, who got 0.
Oh my God!
So luckily I snuck out a win. I didn't beat the needy, and I just
Kenneth Walker out, DJ Dallas worthless, and it's so funny like following this league and how closely I watched the draft as well. And I went back and analyzed the draft before the draft this year on live, and I was just listening back to the beginning of it this morning, and like. There's so many 0-point weeks in this league. It's really a big part of this league. And it's a 32 Creator League. There is 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 3 flex, 1 super flex. Like the quarterbacks are such a challenging thing with the super flex. But if you get 0 points in your running back or receiver slot, you're pretty screwed. And there's definitely landmines every week with 0 points, especially and we saw it with the tight ends in week 1 too. Like I know they get 2 points per reception. But Kyle Pitts, big dud. If you drafted him early, like these tight ends maybe didn't have the floor that people thought. And that can definitely be scary, especially with the zeros and Cole Kmet, Irv Smith. That's definitely a big blow because they're all started in this league. Basically, every player is started in this league.
It's crazy. It's a ton of fun, though.
All right, let's get to a few questions here before we wrap up. I know we have like around 20 minutes, I think, left in the stream. Who would you play this week, Mike Williams or Terry McLaurin?
I would start Mike Williams. I'm scared about Mike Williams tonight. I think he could score 2 TDs maybe if Herbert's going to throw the go ball. Yeah,
I agree. I'm starting Mike Williams definitely in this situation. And Terry McLaurin's good. Don't get me wrong. He's not a horrible option. He didn't have a great week 1. He did score a touchdown. So it's like saved his day with a touchdown, 13.8 points in week 1. But he only had 4 targets, only 2 catches. So that's kind of a scary floor. But we know like he's going to be the number 1 receiver in this offense.
Yeah, he's the number 1 guy.
But I want pieces of this game, man. Again, you're going up against the Chiefs, and this might be one of the few offenses that if the game hits right, like there could be some monster fantasy weeks. There almost definitely will be some monster fantasy weeks from this game. And so you want pieces of this game. I think just in general, that's a pretty good tiebreaker. All right, we got a question here about Hunt or CEH. Kareem Hunt had a huge, massive week one. He was a top 5 running back in fantasy football in week one. Absolutely insane week from Kareem Hunt. Feels like he had a lot of negative press this offseason, a lot of trade rumors this offseason. There was rumored to the Eagles like late in the offseason, and it seemed like there was some smoke there, but there was no fire. And he has 56% snap share, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns, number 4 running back in PPR leagues in week one. Would you start him over Clyde tonight?
I would probably be with Edwards-Helaire because I like it's a better quarterback, better coach. So there's more chances to score. Both of them did have 2 TDs week one. I don't expect either one to have 2 of them again. You probably get a better matchup with Hunt against the Jets, but I'd rather have the guy who has Patrick Mahomes, not Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I'm fine with this take. I think I agree. Like Kareem Hunt definitely has an intriguing ceiling. I think both have a slightly scary floor, honestly. Clyde did get less touches than Kareem Hunt in week one. He did play less snaps than Kareem Hunt in week one. But yeah, again, I just want pieces of this game. I'm fine in a PPR league going with Clyde. Clyde did get 3 targets, which was pretty encouraging, and he did score on a few of those. So at least one of those was definitely a passing play. Maybe it was both were catching touchdowns. And yeah, Clyde also he was the number 6 running back last week. He was only 2 spots behind Kareem Hunt, so it wasn't like they had that much of a difference in week one. So yeah, I think that's a fine take. All right, let's get to a couple more. We had a Josh Palmer question here. Would you start Josh Palmer over Rashad Bateman and Kareem Hunt in a PPR league? I wouldn't start him over either of those guys. He is in my fringe start category. I am starting him in one league because I just need to feel something tonight in that league. Like I wanted a piece of this game tonight, but I'm not starting him over Bateman or Hunt. Definitely, I think I'm starting him maybe over Devontae Smith, who had 0 points in week one. But yeah, Bateman is a guy that I really am like getting more and more into. The more I think about how that week one game went, and really it was a really big blowout game. Lamar did not need to throw much in that game, but he was extremely aggressive downfield. And I had some bold Lamar Jackson takes before the season. I wish we tried to go live before the season officially started, but I'm glad we get to go live together now. My bold take, my very, 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 very bold take for this season is that Lamar Jackson wins his 2nd unanimous MVP award, becoming the only quarterback ever to win 2 unanimous MVPs, and that the Ravens go to the Super Bowl and they compete in the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, it's a really bold take, but we've seen Lamar do it before. And he adds 15 pounds of muscle this offseason. He does lose his top receiver, but Bateman is very good. And the running backs are out too. Like, we didn't even see Lamar run that much in week one, and he still balled out against, obviously, it was just maybe 30 yards. It was just the Jets. But what was really encouraging to me, man, about Lamar in week one was he was really aggressive throwing the ball downfield. He was top 10 in the league in adjusted yards per attempt. Like, he had a lot of air yards in week one. And that's exactly what we need for Lamar, because there's going to be some weeks from Lamar where he rushes for 100 yards and he gets a couple of deep passes and he just breaks the week and he scores 40 points. And if you have Lamar, you win in fantasy. Like, there's going to be weeks like that, I think, again this season, just like there was 2 years ago. All right, we got one more question here. I think this one's tough. Do you start Juju or Sutton tonight? Which way would you go there?
I would like to find a way to put both of them in my lineup if you have a flex spot, or just put them both at receiver and figure out your flex on Sunday.
Yeah, and
I think Sutton and the Broncos are going to bounce back against Houston.
Juju or
he's going to see 8 targets.
Juju or Judy is also a really tough one that was in here earlier. Like I was in the Judy over Sutton camp all offseason. But I wasn't like heavily in that camp. I just knew one of those guys was definitely going to outperform, probably both of them. I actually drafted both of them in one league. I did lose in that league in week one because Younghoe Koo outscored Christian McCaffrey, and like this is just what it's like with kickers in fantasy football. He's absolutely brutal. Younghoe Koo dropping 18 points to Christian McCaffrey's like 16 points in week one. Just brutal with kickers in fantasy. But in that league, I do have Sutton and Judy. I also have Juju, though. I actually like Juju more, I think, than both of them. I think I would play Juju in this game. Like, I like the floor a lot for Juju, and I think he has a similar ceiling to both those other guys. I like all 3 of them. Like, I agree, all 3 are really good spots. And I still don't feel like super confident if it's going to be Sutton, if it's going to be Judy. There's going to be a lot of weeks where I think it's going to be both of them. Would you start Gerald Everett tonight in any situations? I got a question here about Zach Ertz or Gerald Everett. Definitely, I knew there was going to be a lot of Gerald Everett questions tonight because this is one of those guys that he did okay week one. And like when you actually look at the tight end rankings, like he was actually like if you started him, that was an amazing move. Most people, I don't think, started him in week one. I do think he's a fringe start because Keenan Allen's out, but I don't have like a ton of confidence in Gerald Everett. How are you feeling about him, Jack?
Yeah, not super confident, but if you don't have any other tight end on your team or you want the waiver wire guy, I'd rather have to start Everett because this game should have 4 or 5 touchdowns maybe aside, and like maybe Everett gets one of those.
Yeah, so Gerald Everett, he was the number 4 tight end last week. This is what I'm saying, man. Such a desolate wasteland in tight end. It's actually like astonishing. Every week one, he smacks you right in the face with tight ends, but like this going into the draft, and it should shape your tight end strategy. Like you either punt the position entirely, because there's going to be these landmines every year, and they end up being just as bad as these guys on the waiver wire. Gerald Everett, 4th tight end in week 1. OJ Howard was number 2. Those 2 of the top 5 guys. They weren't started in basically any leagues. OJ Howard only had 2 catches. Absolutely ridiculous from the tight ends in week 1. We're going to see Kelsey, though, on full display tonight. And, yeah, Gerald Everett, he fell in the end zone last week. All you got to do is you fall in the end zone. You're basically a top 5 tight end in fantasy that week. And he has a pretty good chance, again, to do it. He did play on 61% of the snaps. Again, this really high-scoring game, most likely, and Keenan Allen's out. So, yeah, I'm okay, like, hoping Gerald Everett falls in the end zone this week. But, again, like, that's really all you're doing. And there's a pretty good chance of disappointment with all of these tight ends, like probably over 50% chance. And for basically every tight end that's not in like the top 5. Really, Schultz is the line for me. I think Schultz, he's even getting on the edge with Cooper Rush now starting at quarterback. So like it's all falling apart at the tight end position. And we did see Kyle Pitts really underperform in week 1 too. So your official take is you are in the Chiefs, but you probably take the Chargers money line. I'm in the same camp, honestly, man. I'm not going to take the Chargers over the Chiefs tonight. I think that the Chiefs offense is not what I'm like. It's not an offense I'm willing to bet against really like this whole season based off of week 1. I really like the idea of Mahomes just being able to spread the ball to the open guy and a lot of guys that can do well after the catch. That's what they added with Pacheco and Sky Moore too. I do really like how they're building the offense. But I mean, I agree that I'm taking the points because this game could definitely go either way, and I am okay betting on the Chargers offense as well. Like Justin Herbert is definitely capable any given night of beating Patrick Mahomes. I think they're both just like insanely good quarterbacks. Any final thoughts tonight? Do you have do you have any bold takes for the season? Because I know we didn't get to go live before the season. Can you leave us with a very, 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 very bold take? It could even be about tonight or just the rest of the season. Any bold takes for us, Jack, before we hang up?
I got it. Some good ones before the season. They're already looking pretty good. I put money on both Dallas and Green Bay to miss the playoffs and Philly, Minnesota to win those divisions. And I like Minnesota for the Super Bowl. Out of the NFC, that's been my take all summer. I'm very high in Minnesota. I think the coaching change is a lot more different than people think, and we already saw it week 1 with O'Connell putting Jefferson in motion way more than he was using Zimmer.
Right.
And he's getting a matched up against like Preston Smith. Like that is not fair at all to Green Bay. Getting Jefferson going across is going to be such a big deal. If you can stay healthy and Kirk can get him the ball, I think Minnesota has a great chance to come out of the NFC.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely in the MVP conversation, and honestly, like after week 1, I know I was adamant pretty much all offseason. And obviously, there's a lot of risk with the first pick. There's a lot of good players in the NFL, but I'm not walking back. Obviously, I'm going to eat some of my L's this season. One of my big L's, by the way, that I can't believe the Seahawks beat the Broncos. That was a massive L for me week 1. Had a lot on the Broncos in that game. Yeah, I had a wager on them to not win a game, and I actually think I'll be so tilted if they do not win another game this season. They did lose Jamal Adams in this game, and I personally think the most talented player on their team on a defense that I was already nervous about. They didn't play well in week 1. They did allow over 400 yards. They really got outplayed pretty clearly. Geno Smith is not a guy I have confidence in still. But yeah, I mean, they were never going to win 0 games. It was 50 to win 2,000. Like, this is ridiculously long odds. That hasn't happened. That happens once a decade, basically, as a team that doesn't win a game in a season. Like, we've seen some bad teams win some games because there's a lot of bad teams in the NFL. But yeah, I definitely took an L with that one. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about my Ravens bold take as well. But it was so great to go live with you, Jack. Good luck tonight. And we'll definitely try to go live again together at some point throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Big game tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Go Chiefs tonight.
See you, Jack. I do want to call out if I haven't gotten to your start sit question, I will do my best to get to as many start sit questions over the next 10 minutes or so on both TikTok and YouTube. We are live on TikTok and YouTube though, and I will admit it's a little easier to pull up the comments on YouTube. There's no feature to pull up a comment on TikTok in the front of the screen. I can do that on YouTube, so it's a little bit better of experience. I'm not gonna lie. You can come to the YouTube live in the TikTok bio, if you're watching live on TikTok, you can still do it right on your phone. It's basically just a superior experience. And it's more likely that I can get to your comment as well. I will try to answer some comments on TikTok, though, as well. And if you are watching live on TikTok, make sure you hit the follow button. And if you're watching live on YouTube, too, make sure you hit the like button. It helps me out so much more than you probably realize. And I really do appreciate hitting that subscribe button, too. We're trying to hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers this season. I think we're right around 7,000. I don't know exactly where we're at, but we're definitely close, but still far from that big milestone. But will be really exciting when we do hit that. All right, so we're gonna go rapid fire some comments now. I did see a comment on TikTok. I mean, this one's ridiculous, but it did catch my eye. Kyle Pitts or Gerald Everett. Like, we're not that low, guys, on Kyle Pitts at this point. Like, let's take a deep breath. You're starting Kyle Pitts. You drafted Kyle Pitts. You're starting Kyle Pitts. You're in this game now. You have to start Kyle Pitts. If you drafted Kyle Pitts, there's really no way around it. We were drafting him as a top 3 tight end. You have to start Kyle Pitts and honestly double down on Kyle Pitts. Like, I would not sell low on Kyle Pitts. I'm setting trades for Kyle Pitts in a lot of my leagues. I think you could have another down week too. And if he does start slow, I'm definitely like, I have my finger on the pulse with Kyle Pitts because I think he still can have massive weeks. And he's one of these tight ends, just like we saw with Travis Kelce in week 1, that can win weeks by being one of the few tight ends that goes off in that given week. So yeah, don't bench Kyle Pitts. If anything, I'm buying Kyle Pitts. He's actually my number 1 buy in the YouTube video I dropped this morning. Make sure you go watch that too. There's 10 players I'm either buying or selling and why. Kyle Pitts was the number 1 guy. Like, I'm buying Kyle Pitts, even if he has another down week. Breece Hall is another guy that he wasn't in that video, but I'm definitely keeping my eye on Breece Hall and how low I can get him for in fantasy. Because if it goes down a little bit, Breece Hall can definitely win leagues. Would you start Bateman or Henderson this week? Yeah, I want to start both of these guys. I think I'm starting Henderson over Bateman. I am fully out on Cam Akers. I know that there's some people out there with still a little bit of hope. I've been out on Cam Akers since he had the hamstring report in preseason. I was in on Cam Akers like at the beginning of the offseason. I do drafts way too early. I was drafting in May. I have teams in May that have Cam Akers on them, but I stopped drafting him the second I saw the report that he missed practice with a hamstring injury early in the season where he was questionable for week 1. The second he was questionable for week 1, I said I was out on Cam Akers. And he has had no explosiveness since he's returned from the Achilles injury. We saw James Robinson. He returned from the Achilles injury really strong in week 1. And so it's not like it's impossible to return from, but it's still definitely really concerning for Cam Akers. Just what he's put on tape is really bad. The stats are there to back it up as well. Amon-Ra, Hardman, or Scantling. It's got to be Amon-Ra over Hardman and Scantling. Again, those both guys are fringe starts. I think Amon-Ra is really a must-start guy. I mean, he's balled out for so many consecutive games now. I think it's 7 or 8 consecutive games. Like, he's finished as a top 30 receiver in fantasy football. He did it again in week 1. He was the 11th receiver in week 1. Like, what do you want from him? He was a top 12 receiver in week 1. We got to be starting him in week 2. He scores 20.4 fantasy points. He had a healthy 8 catches, 12 targets. Like, this dude commands targets because he's very good. A lot of people had concerns about him this offseason with DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, DJ Chark back in the mix. When he was popping off last season, a lot of those guys were injured or not on the team. But Amon-Ra is really good, pretty clearly. You don't do what he did as a rookie and not be good. It's pretty straightforward. He was a beast in the back half of last season. That same story, though, is kind of true for Elijah Moore, who did sort of bust in week 1. And I am a little bit more nervous about Elijah Moore now that Garrett Wilson's in town and Corey Davis is fully healthy. A.J. Dillon, Clyde, or Waddle. I want to be starting A.J. Dillon against the Bears this week so badly. Like, I think you kind of have to go Waddle in a PPR league. But otherwise, I'm going A.J. Dillon, and I'm definitely not considering Clyde in this one. Again, I think Clyde's he's the most fringe must start on my list for sure. Palmer or Julio. I really liked what we saw to Julio, and I might be eating an L there too. I was pretty down on Julio this whole offseason. Didn't draft him in any of my season-long leagues. I do have him a tiny bit in best ball, but not a ton. He looked good, guys, in week 1. He looked the best we've seen him in really 2 years, and there seems to be some chemistry there with Tom Brady. There's a lot of injuries, though, going on in Tampa Bay. I don't think a single receiver in Tampa Bay practiced today. So there's definitely a lot more information we need there still. But yeah, I think I would probably go Julio over Palmer. But again, I'm okay taking stabs at this game. Like, I'm starting all these guys. I'm okay taking stabs on these guys who are watching live on TikTok. If you're watching live on YouTube, I'm just literally pointing to the ceiling. But you've seen the guys on the screen already. Need your help. Got Cooper Kupp locked. Obviously, lock in Cooper Kupp. I mean, guys, if you drafted early receiver this season, and I did in a couple leagues, I have Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp in a couple different leagues, not together, obviously. But if you start Cooper Kupp, you got Juju, Judy, and MT. Yeah, Michael Thomas, you'd love to see it from MT in fantasy. Scores 2 late touchdowns, and I think he had 0 points or close to 0 points at halftime. He really had a huge second half. I think I would go Juju, though. Again, I'm siding with this game. This game could be extremely high scoring. It could be the highest scoring game of the week. Very easily possible. Both of these teams could continue to pass the ball even if they get a big lead. There's not every team in the league is like that. It's honestly pretty rare you get two teams that go against each other that are like that can score at the velocity that these offenses can score at. I was at the last game that these two teams played against each other in SoFi Stadium. In that game, there's almost 900 total yards. This game's in Kansas City, which is why I'm taking the Chiefs. I am taking the Chargers against the spread, though. I do think they have a chance to win this game. And it really, like, these offenses are just so elite that it's going to be really exciting. I think the Chargers defense has more talent than the Chiefs defense. There's talent on both sides of the ball, though, for both teams, but definitely both offenses are the best two sides of the ball in this game. Mahomes, start Clyde in case AK sits. Other backup is Henderson. Go Taysom. Yeah, Jordan, I'm starting Taysom. Yeah, I'm punting. Like Cole Kmet or Taysom Hill. Honestly, after last week, I know it was a bad weather game for Cole Kmet, but I'm okay. In some situations, going Taysom Hill over Cole Kmet, it's so brutal for tight ends. Shout out to everyone starting Gerald Everett tonight. Like, good luck. I want pieces of this game, but I don't feel good about basically any tight end in fantasy football other than Travis Kelce, who is playing tonight. Mark Andrews. I would include Kyle Pitts in that list too. I know he disappointed week one. Start Clyde in case AK sits. Is Alvin Kamara potentially sitting? I did not see a report that made me think Alvin Kamara was going to sit. Let me just look this up though, because there maybe was something since I last saw any Alvin Kamara news. Ribs did not participate in Thursday's practice. It's a downgrade from Wednesday. Hate to see a downgrade when he was limited. Kamara is likely a true questionable at this point for week 2's game against Tampa Bay. Yikes. Friday's practice report will tell us more of the story, but the injury perhaps a little more serious than we thought it was Wednesday. On Wednesday, he was practicing, and he had a bit of a rib injury against the Falcons, but he played the entire game, I believe. He was battling rib injury, but the coach said after the game thinks he's going to be fine. That's not that encouraging now looking back on it with this latest report. So, yeah, definitely some real concern with Alvin Kamara. There's not 100% chance Alvin Kamara goes, I'm okay going Clyde in that situation if you want to play it safe. Again, you want pieces of this game. Clyde's not the worst option. He's definitely a worse option than Alvin Kamara. But, again, if you want to play it safe, like, you got to avoid these landmines in your roster. Like, this is one of the biggest things in fantasy. Is why Josh Palmer, he's not a must start tonight. Hardman, he's not a must start. These guys are fringe starts because they could be landmines. Definitely some of them. Not all of these fringe starts are going to end up having good games tonight. I do think pretty much all the must starts have a pretty good chance at touchdowns, though. Again, Herbert, Mahomes, Kelce, Eckler, Mike Williams, Clyde, Juju. I think all those guys have really good potential tonight. But yeah, I'm okay going Clyde over Kamara with the Kamara injury news. Very disappointing news, by the way. In one of my leagues, one of my high stakes leagues, I tricked myself into drafting Najee Harris. The only league I draft Najee Harris in. I'm desperately trying to trade him. I actually sent a trade offer right before this stream. It was Najee Harris straight up for A.J. Dillon. That's how down bad I am about drafting Najee Harris. And I love A.J. Dillon. I want A.J. Dillon more than I want Najee Harris at this point. He re-injures the same foot. It's the same foot injury for Najee Harris. A different injury, supposedly. Supposedly he's playing this week, which is good news. Obviously, that's good news. I drafted him. I want him to play. But I'm definitely nervous about the foot. And we just haven't seen a game with him with any sort of explosive plays. Like, it's a pure volume play, which is why the foot injury is so concerning with Najee Harris. Then on that team, I also drafted Alvin Kamara. So this news is just absolutely brutal for that squad. And I don't think the guy's going to accept my Najee for A.J. Dillon straight up trade. You could ask yourself that question if you guys think that's a fair trade. Walter actually has Najee with a slight edge over A.J. Dillon still, but it's actually really close in half PPR format. Mahomes over or under 25 points. I'd probably go over for both Herbert and Mahomes 25 points tonight, depending on your scoring setting, obviously. Also, guys, if I don't get your start sit question, check out the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. It's 100% completely free to download. There are some premium subscriptions in the app, some of which do come with a completely free 7-day trial, but there's also a completely free version of the app where you can compare as many start sit comparisons as you want to. And there's a lot of start sit questions. I can't get to all of them. There's a lot of you in this stream right now, a little over 500 of us in this stream. I can't get to all the start sit questions. That's why I've helped build the WalterPicks app. And again, it's completely free to download. There are some premium subscriptions. You can sync your league in the premium subscription version of our app, which is a really exciting feature. This season, you get custom insights to your custom league settings, your custom roster settings, your custom scoring settings. And that's another one of these pain points for me as a content creator, trying to give advice for all these different league settings. There's so many league settings. And a lot of times these questions don't reference league settings. Like, look at this question, CEH or Jeff Wilson. Well, Darren, if it's a PPR league, I definitely going CEH. If it's not a PPR league, I think I still go CEH, but it's definitely a lot closer because Jeff Wilson is basically a zero in the passing game. So it is helpful, by the way, and when you do ask questions, is it non-PPR, half PPR, full PPR? But again, this is all stuff that the WalterPicks app will take into account. Link is in the YouTube description. Link is in the TikTok bio as well if you're watching live on TikTok. Again, completely free to try on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Really do appreciate your support for that. And if I do get your questions or I do help you at all in the stream, I do really appreciate 5-star reviews for the app in the App Store too. That's one of the best ways you could possibly help me is 5-star reviews. So I always really do appreciate those. Russell Wilson or Antonio Gibson in a half PPR league. I'm assuming this isn't Russell Wilson. I'm assuming this is Jeff Wilson. My mind's on Russell Wilson. Yeah, you got to go Gibson. Definitely. What we saw from Gibson, there's no Brian Robinson still for Washington for the next 3 weeks. So Gibson's definitely a starter in all of those weeks without Brian Robinson. We got to see what happens when Brian Robinson comes back, though. It is 8 p.m., guys. I got time for a couple more questions. Then we will wrap up. Again, I'm taking the Chiefs tonight. But I have the Chargers against the spread. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm starting basically all the games you would expect to be thinking about definitely starting. Like I'm starting basically all of them. Clyde is the most fringe must start. Like he if I could, I would put him like halfway in between these two. I think there's some situations you don't want to be starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but like you want pieces of this game. This could be an extremely high scoring game. You want Austin Eckler, you want Travis Kelce. Obviously, you want the two quarterbacks. I'm really in on Mike Williams' bounce back tonight. I think he goes over 60 yards, maybe even over 80 yards tonight with no Keenan Allen. And Juju is another guy. I think he's a really safe floor, really high ceiling. I'm definitely starting Juju. Clyde is on the fringe. He did score 2 touchdowns, only 35% snap share though. So there's definitely some potential for a floor with him. But again, there's a good chance he scores a touchdown again. Some fringe starts tonight. If you really need a deep flex option or deep receiver option, Hardman, Scantling, Palmer, Carter, one of these guys probably going to have a good night. I'm most excited about Hardman. He actually had the most air yards, more than Scantling in week 1. I think that's a really good sign for him here in week 2. Juju or Sutton, yeah, again, I'm starting Juju over Sutton. I'm starting Juju over Judy. I like both guys, but again, I want pieces of this game against the Chargers. J.C. Jackson is back. That is a little bit of a downgrade for the entire Chiefs offense, but not enough for me to move the needle on really any of these guys. And I'm okay taking L's on these guys. Again, you're shooting for a really high upside here. Like basically every aspect of this game has high scoring about it. So you kind of have some massive fantasy days from these guys in the must start column, and even some potentially big days from the guys in the fringe start column. I would be so happy if Sky Moore all of a sudden had a huge game, but he only played, I think he ran 6 routes in week 1. I actually think he got a carry too. He had 1 catch, 30 yards. He's a guy that I'm really excited about long term, but I don't think he's going to factor much into the game tonight. He's only 22 years old, though. Really bright future for him, I think. Is Kittle ready? Is Kittle ready for this week, or should I pick up someone off waiver wires PPR? Max, you got to add someone. If you have George Kittle, you got to go add someone. He's probably not going to play again. It's definitely still questionable. It could go either way, but I got very little confidence in George Kittle right now for sure. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Time is the most valuable thing we have, so thank you so much for spending some time with me tonight. Good luck tonight wherever you're playing. I didn't touch on the DraftKings lineup tonight. I do like going with Mecole Hardman. You're playing Mahomes or Herbert in the captain slot, obviously. I only made 2 lineups tonight, one with a Mahomes and Mecole Hardman stack, one with a Herbert and Mike Williams stack. I think that's where I would start in this game. And I would not be afraid if you're playing in like these big tournaments on DraftKings FanDuel. Don't be afraid to take some big risks in these big tournaments because it's so hard to differentiate your lineups in these primetime games. So like, don't be afraid. If you differentiate your lineup in the right way, that's really how you can get these top prizes. So definitely have no fear when picking your lineup, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Guys, have a great rest of your night. Again, I'm taking the Chiefs tonight. I was about 50% against the spread, but I'm taking the Chargers against the spread tonight. And my free prop tonight was Mecole Hardman over 35.5 receiving yards. Have a good one, guys. Thanks again. I'll be back live, as always, Sunday morning, basically from when I wake up right until kickoff, both on TikTok and